Hey everyone, Mitch Cubby with the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So lately we've got a lot of exciting new cards, but also we've got some very exciting reprints. And with those reprints comes some price drops. I mean, not skyrocketing. What's the opposite of that? Sky falling? Like that movie with James Bond, Skyfall. That's what it was about, right? Magic prices. Regardless, on today's episode, while I get back on topic, is about picking up these cards because, well, their prices dropped a ton. They are fantastic, and there are plenty of applications for them. So, with all that said, let's jump into it. Let's first talk about the cards that are less than $1 now, cards that are within my budget even. We're going to start things off with Corpse Knight, a fantastic card. Whenever the creature enters battlefield under control, each opponent loses 1 life. Yeah, this is a great card for a token strategy. It's a great card in a risk strategy as well. Those, have Zulaport, Cutthroat type effects that drain opponents when your creatures die. But also those kinds of strategies usually have ways to get creatures back. Mass reanimation effects, reassembling skeleton, those types of cards as well. So a lot of creatures coming into play, so drain your opponents a lot with stuff like this. This is a card that definitely used to be budget friendly a long time ago. Of course, set 2020 apparently was the only time it was ever printed. And then it started going up and up and up. As you can see, other printings of it around $2, $3 essentially. This one only 25 cents now with the reprint. Thank you for that reprint. A fantastic one at that. Moving on, we got Keeper of the Accord. A great card that I think immediately this one was not at all budget friendly. At least I don't remember it ever being budget friendly. It was printed in Commander Legends, so quite a while back. There was a $5 card-ish, like $3 to $5 depending on where it was at. Beginning of each opponent's end step, that player controls more creatures than you. You make a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So yeah, again, each opponent's end step, you can make a lot of tokens with this. And also, at the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player controls more lands than you. Search life for a base planes, my battlefield tap, then shuffle. Yeah, that can ramp you a ton as well. Basically catch you up to, well, kind of, whoever's in the lead when it comes to lands pretty quickly usually. So yeah, this is a great way to not only ramp, but also to make a ton of tokens. And yeah, now it's just 88 cents, at least for the time being. It is underneath $1. Next up, Shimmer Dragon. I love this card. In an artifact deck, this is an incredible card, one that is hard to deal with, and one that can provide you an absurd amount of card advantage. As long as you control 4 more artifacts, it has hexproof. So again, just straight up hexproof, your opponents cannot target it, which is great. For a 5/6 flyer for 6 mana, that's nice. But more importantly, tap to a tapped artifact you control, draw a card. Again, an artifact tribal, not artifact tribal, I guess an artifact-centric deck. You're going to have a ton of artifacts, usually enough to get this hexproof. And yeah, you're going to be drawing an absurd amount of cards with this. Of course, there's also ways to untap artifacts as well, like, dramatic reversal type effects to help you draw a ton with this. Now just 26 cents. A couple of reprints recently that started dropping it. It was budget friendly at one point, went outside of budget, and now it's starting to creep back down again with these most recent reprints. Thank goodness. Only 26 cents now, a fantastic pickup. Moving on. Soul of New Phyrexia. Well, yeah, this is a great way to protect your things and protect them again. 6/6 trampling artifact creature Phyrexian Avatar. Apparently they adjusted it. Now it's a Phyrexian Avatar. Nice. Yeah, pay 5 permanents you control, get indestructible end of turn. So if this is in play, and you've got mana for it, and there's plenty of ways to ramp, yeah, you've got plenty of ways to just protect your entire board. All of your permanents, indestructible. That is incredible. But if at some point this gets dealt with, or if you maybe ditch it with like a Faithless Loot and get in your graveyard, pay 5, exile from your graveyard, permanents you control, get indestructible end of turn. A great way to protect your team again, even when this is in your graveyard too. Just 27 cents. That card that when I first started playing was budget friendly, and the prices started creeping up a little bit. As you can see, it was around $2 or so with other printings too. So yeah, finally back down to within my budget territory. Next up, the Bloodforge Battle Axe. This card got expensive. So it's an equipment that costs 1. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you get a token that's a copy of it. So this in an equipment tribal deck, this in a Voltron style deck can be incredible. My goodness, just kind of flooding the board with more and more copies of it to keep attaching them to, your creatures. Or just again, any Voltron deck, that Voltron creature, essentially, your commander. So yeah, this is a great way to make a ton of equipment very quickly. 47 cents now, was around like $2 to $5 or so, with recent reprinting. So there you go. I mean, basically came out in Commander 2017, was not very, very budget friendly for a long time. And then Double Masters still wasn't budget friendly. And now finally, at least for the time being, within my budget restrictions. Next up, Nettlesist. That's a hard name. It's Nettlesist. I think I got it right. There we go. Equipment with a living weapon enters battlefield to get a 0/0 Phyrexian Germ. Equipped creature gets +1 for each artifact enchantment you control. So, hey, are you playing enchantment tribal? Cool. You're playing artifact tribal? Even better. You're playing artifact enchantment tribal, which might be a thing? Sure, great. Regardless, it's a great way to pump a creature a ton. And comes with a little germ to start. Yeah, this is a great card. It pairs with other, pump effects as well. Great for a Voltron strategy, with all the other equipment. Great for, again, Enchantress strategy as well. A great card overall. And now just 41 cents. Came out in Modern Horizons 2. I don't believe this one's actually ever been budget friendly. So yeah, make sure you pick it up if you've been waiting for that one to drop. Next up, Impermanence Anvil. This is the only card that I'm probably going to be mentioning outside of, the March the Machine, I don't know, printings from Commander or the Commander precons. You know what I mean. Regardless, I just noticed that this one dropped the other day. Somehow underneath $1. Oh my goodness. I hope it stays there. Although with it being in this episode, it might not now. My bad. Regardless, 95 cents now. So just underneath my $1. This card is incredible. Enters the battlefield, exiling non-land card from your hand. Spells you cast your card type with the exile card cost 2 less to cast. Basically a massive cost reduction for a certain kind of spell. So if you're playing in a Spellslinger deck, cool, get rid of a sorcery at instant, reduce the cost of them a ton. Creature heavy deck, awesome, reduce that. Most likely though, in the way that I play this card, is most likely going to be in an artifact centric deck, because reducing the cost of artifacts is an incredibly broken thing, especially when it's by 2. I mean, the vast majority of mana rocks essentially are going to be free now with this in play. And yeah, there's definitely ways to storm off and do some crazy things with artifacts. So yeah, Impermanence Anvil is a great one, and I'm very surprised to see that it finally is budget friendly again. Next up, Skyclave Relic. This is a really interesting card. It's an artifact for a 3 that has kicker 3. It's indestructible. Enters the battlefield. If it was kicked, you get 2 tap tokens or copies of it. It can tap for 1 mana of any color. So essentially, at 3 mana, it is an inefficient mana rock. It is indestructible though, but it is an inefficient mana rock, like a mana lift basically, but one that is indestructible. So yeah, not all that efficient, but you do have the flexibility that if you need it early, great, you can utilize it early. But if you want it later, hey, kick it, get 3 copies of it. Sorry, 2 copies of it, so 3 in total. Basically, you can tap for 3 mana then instead of just 1. They're all indestructible. They're hard to deal with. And yeah, if you're an artifact-centric deck, again, a deck that cares about the number of artifacts in play, this has a great amount of flexibility to it to, again, either be low to the ground early or give you more artifacts later. A great ramp spell. Next up, we've got Imprison in the Moon. This card's price has fluctuated over the years, but yeah, it's a great removal spell. Enchantment Aura, 2 and a blue. Enchant creature land or planeswalker enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap, add colorless, and loses all other card types and abilities. Yeah, that's brutal. That's awesome. That is incredibly effective. And hey, you know what? Your opponents don't want you to turn into a land. Their commander. So yeah, this is a great way to deal with a commander. Not, permanently. They can, remove the enchantment, with a, removal spell. It might take them some time to do so, though. But it's a great way to really get rid of something. Maybe permanently, maybe temporarily. Depends on what they can do. Regardless, just 31 cents now. Yeah, again, this card's price has fluctuated over the years. A really good removal spell. Next up, Flame Shadow Conjuring. I am so excited that this one finally is budget friendly again, because it hasn't been for such a long time, and there were so many decks I was using it in beforehand. And then all of a sudden it was like, yep, that's not budget friendly. Magic Origins, where's our next reprint? Didn't get one. Yeah, as you can see, the Magic Origins printing still $3.20. This one's 77 cents. Currently, whenever a non-token creature is battlefield under control, you may pay red. If you do, you get a token copy of it. Gains haste, exile being the next end step. Basically, a great card to double up on ETBs. Also just a way to be aggressive, have an extra copy of a creature, can attack with it, cool. But really, what this is really good at is saying, hey, I've got a creature that's got a great ETB, just pay an extra red mana, get a copy of it, get the ETB again. This obviously works with commanders too. The commander copy is going to go away because legend rule, but so you still get that ETB. Also works with death triggers too. It works with death triggers, I guess, for non-legendary things as well, but you need to have a sacrifice outlet. You know what I mean, but yeah. A great card to double up on some triggers. A great card, and yeah, finally budget friendly again. Next up, Brexian Scriptures. A fantastic board wipe. One that can be very one-sided for you. Now just 79 cents. Apparently the promo was around 10, but yeah, like a $2-3 card before this. Enchantment Saga for 2 black, enters the battlefield. You were going to get a lore counter on it, and then obviously during its upkeep as well. The first one is put a ++1 counter up to 1 target creature. If the creature comes in, artifact or other types. Second one is draw non-artifact creatures. Third one is exile opponent's graveyards. Basically, hey, save at the very least one of your creatures. Nice, because it's going to become an artifact. Then wipe the board. If you've got, artifact creatures just abound, great. You're going to be able to keep them all in play. Your opponent's creatures that are artifacts as well will stay, but most of your opponents probably just have an artifact army. You're going to get rid of most creatures. And then also, the icing on top of the cake is just, hey, let's just exile opponent's graveyard. So all those creatures that you just got destroyed, bye-bye permanently, and all your other cards in your graveyard as well. Graveyard hate is a very good thing in Commander against certain strategies. Moving on, we've got Semester's End. A card that was budget friendly for a little bit, then just, boop, went, skyrocketed in price. Again, like around $2 or so before this, 32 cents now. Instant exiling different target creatures and or planeswalkers you control at the beginning of the next end step. Return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each submitters with a counter on it or a loyalty counter for its planeswalker. Most of the time, this is just like, hey, I've got a lot of ETBs, like a Brago kind of deck where you're just trying to, blink your creatures and get them back into play, and then blink your creatures and get them back into play. This is a 4-mana, blink all your creatures, have them come back, and also they come back slightly stronger. Basically a +1 counter on them. That's nice. I mean, the main thing is probably just getting all those ETBs again for 4 mana. You can also utilize this, obviously, as, protection, essentially. Basically being able to just kind of save some things, from targeting as well. So a great card overall. Moving on. Perplexing Test. An incredible board wipe that is very flexible. Instant, choose one eternal creature token to owner's hands or eternal non-token creature to owner's hands. Most of the time, you're going to use this when you've got a token strategy, you've got a ton of tokens in play, and your opponents might not. And if they don't, well, this is a one-sided board wipe. You swing out with your token army, your opponents are like, I'm going to block, and you're like, well, before blockers are declared, boop, all your creatures are gone, and my token army gets through. Now, obviously, this can work in reverse, but it's more likely to work in that way. Regardless, a really good one-sided board wipe potential. 30 cents now. Again, Commander 2021, this is the first reprint we've seen of it. It got to be around like a $2-3 card, so yeah, a good reprint for us. Moving on, Spellswindle. This card has swindled me very terribly sometimes. This is a card that used to be budget-friendly. I used it in a couple decks, but now around $2-3 or so, but now 29 cents with this reprint. I love it. 3 blue, instant, counter target spell, create extra tokens for X that spell's mana value. Your opponent casts a giant X spell, and you're like, gimme. Thank you. So yeah, you can get a ton of mana out of this. Basically, a kind of mana, like a more expensive mana drain in a way we get to kind of keep the mana, essentially, kind of wherever you want it with those treasure tokens, and it can be mana of any color. But yeah, a great card, and I'm very happy that it has been reprinted. Next up, Night's Whisper. Shh, a really good card. Shh. Yeah, this card really hadn't been reprinted for like the longest time, and then I finally started doing it, and finally with this reprint, it has fallen underneath $1 at 78 cents. Very simple, very effective. 2 cards for 2 life for 2 mana. Yeah, sign me up for that any day in Commander. You got 40 life, that's completely fine. And unlike Sign in Blood, now you can't target an opponent with this. That can be a good way to take someone out. They're very low. Most likely that's not going to be the scenario, though. Most of the time you are using it for yourself. And yeah, there you go. This is even more easy to cast again for just 1 in a black instead of black. So a fantastic card. Happy to see it reprinted. Moving on. 28 cents, we got Promise of Loyalty. Sorcery, each player puts a vow counter each creature they control, sacrifice the rest. Each of those creatures can attack you or planeswalkers you control for as long as they have a vow counter on it. This is a $2 or $3 card. Finally reprinted, very budget friendly now, a great board wipe. Yeah, it's 1 more mana than like a Wrath of God type effect, but this one is actually quite funny because it's like, hey, you know what? Everyone keeps 1 creature, which is really good for you, especially if you have like a Voltron deck on like, around 1 creature. Great, cool. But now your creatures that you kept, well, they can't come at me, but they can go at your opponents. So you can just swing at each other with those. You can't attack me with them, which is quite nice. So yeah, these vow counters are quite nice, and yeah, it's a really good board wipe. Next up, Brass's Bounty. I didn't think we'd see the day. The amount of like, treasure commanders out there, or, decks that care about treasures, or, just how much players seem to love treasures. And actually, it's kind of like a love-hate thing, because there's just too much out there. But yeah, with this reprint, Brass's Bounty is finally back to budget-friendly. 33 cents. The original, like, giant treasure spell that I loved back then. For each land you control, create treasure token. 7 mana. Yeah, this can be absolutely absurd. I mean, basically, this can be a ritual in a way where, You got more in 7 lands, you're getting more mana back than you put into this. And again, it's kind of like storing up that mana into treasures. So yeah, very efficient, very effective. Of course, really good things like doubling season that can double up the number of tokens you're getting, that kind of stuff too, or ways to double up the amount of mana you're getting from treasures. Regardless, a very good, very exciting card, one that I loved in my Joda deck when it was budget friendly, and then all of a sudden it just wasn't. So yeah, 33 cents now. Make sure you pick it up if you've been waiting for that one. Moving on, Gaviny Township, a land. Yeah, a really good land, one that has not been budget friendly for as long as I can remember. Back in Innistrad, my goodness, like a $2 card or so recently. It was reprinted New Capenna. Regardless, 31 cents now. A land that can tap red colors, pay 2 a green and a white tap, put a counter on each creature you control. There's a lot of decks out there that like to go wide. There's a lot of token decks out there. There's a lot of decks out there that care about +1 counters. It's a fantastic way to just, on a land, have a great way to do that. I mean, it's not the most efficient thing, like 5 mana, but still, again, it's not to get a spot in your deck, really. And if you've got, like a 3 or less kind of color deck, essentially, very easy to say, yeah, I'll put a colorless land in there. It's completely fine. So a great card at that, a great reprint. Next up, we've got Vine Glimmer Snarl, another land that's hard to say. As it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a forest or island card from your hand. If you don't, enter the battlefield tapped for green, blue. Yeah, if you've got, a bunch of forest and islands, cool. Just basically a dual land that can play untapped most of the time, or a good amount of the time, I should say. 28 cents now, was a $1 to $2 card or so, a great land reprint. But now we've gone through every single one of the cards that are within my budget. Again, less than $1, the cards that I'm incredibly excited about. Next up, though, let's move on to the cards that are slightly outside, or a little bit more outside of my budget. Cards that are more than $1, but have dropped a lot in price, and I'm hoping they keep dropping a little bit more. Let's start things off with Academy Manufacturer, though. A great card, a fantastic card that I brought up on a good amount of episodes, when it comes to spoiler seasons lately. It seems like if you create a clue, food, or treasure token, say create one of each. An incredible effect. Basically like, hey, you like efficiency? Well, let's make it 3 times as efficient, essentially, whenever you're creating any of those. Yeah, I mean, the real value in there, not the real value, I should say, but like if you are, making clues or making food, getting treasures while making those is so cool. And then if you are just making treasures, which there's a ton of ways to make treasures these days, yeah, just extra clues or extra food is just nice to have, card advantage, or also, potential life gain too. Whatever you need. Regardless, now it's $1.12, just 12 cents out of my, or 13, I guess, out of my budget. Oh, another reprinting will be nice, or maybe it'll drop just a little bit more. Who we will see. Regardless, yeah, this card went up in price quite a bit over the years. I mean, I guess it hasn't been that long really since it came out, but over the little bit that it's been out, I guess it has gone up in a decent amount of the time because, yeah, treasures definitely became a thing. Moving on, though, we've got Knight Exemplar. Don't know why I said it like that, but I did. 2/2 first strike. Other knights you control, +1 indestructible. Yeah, that's a fantastic effect for Knight Tribal. And wait, what's that? Yep, more Knight Tribal decks coming. Yeah, with certain commanders that have come out lately, and this reprint definitely was needed, or this would have been a very, very expensive. I mean, it's still very expensive, but yeah, $1.31 currently. Outside of my budget, but yeah, it was like a $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 card because yeah, there's a really good effect for a tribal deck, and also like for changeling tribal decks, or like Lord tribal decks. Yeah, it's a great card. Next up, we've got Colonian Hydra. Oh my gosh, this card just brings back so many memories. So the first deck that I built around was Rishkar, and I was just like struggling to be like, okay, like at the time I wasn't like a budget builder. Like I still built decent like low size budgets, but so I was like, okay, can I just like, buy this? I think it was like $8 a time. I got an $8 card. I don't really want to. And then I kind of like switched over to being completely budget and yeah, putting a limit on my cards. So yeah, Colonian Hydra definitely is maybe some inspiration for that. But now, $7.41, still around $8. It was like a $15, $16 card before this, though. A great card for counter decks, obviously. 0/0 trample, enters the battlefield with 4 counters on it. When it attacks, double the number of counters on each creature you control. Yeah, that's a ton. For a +1 counter strategy, that is an absurd effect. Absolutely lovely. And yeah, a great card. And yeah, I highly doubt it'll ever become within my budget territory. But yeah, basically half the price right now. Next up, we got Masker Worm, a great card that I really hope can become budget friendly. $1.45, so not too far away. It's like a $4 or $5 card or so. Enters battlefield, creature player control, -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever creature player controls dies, the player loses 2 life. It's a 6/5. But yeah, a great, basically, board wipe on a body for small creatures for the most part. Though, of course, there are ways to use and abuse that ETB. So, yeah, maybe make a token copy of it. Regardless, yeah, drain your opponent's creatures, make them smaller, take some out, drain your opponents whenever those creatures die. Whenever any of your opponent's creatures die, it's a fantastic effect. Yeah, Masquerum, I really hope you're going to be budget friendly someday, but for right now, you're just outside of it. $1.45. Next up, Ancient Stone Idol. I love this card, and it's finally creeping down. Commander 2018 was when this was printed, so it's been quite a long time. $6, $7, whatever it is card before this. Never budget friendly, at least for me. $1.92 currently. It's getting there. It's getting there. 12/12 Golem with Flash that costs 10. It's going to cost 1 to cast for each attacking creature. It's got Trample. Whenever it dies, you get a 6/12 colorless artifact creature with Trample. Basically, hey, either you're swinging with a giant army or your opponents are swinging with their army, and this is nearly free or even free to cast, and just flash in a 12/12 trampler that can also just kind of replace itself. They 6/12, still half the size, which is very nice. Regardless, a really cool card, and one that I hope to see another reprint at some point. Again, this is the first reprint, so maybe it can get to my budget territory. Moving on though, Herald's Horn. Oh my goodness, yeah. This card has been reprinted a couple of times recently. Battle for Baldur's Gate, Warhammer. Finally, again, here we go. Mark's Machine reprint in the Commander deck. And yeah, it's down to $4 right now. It's a card that's like been whoop, 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 yeah, on prices essentially. Yeah, skyrocketing and then going down. It's a very expensive card over time for a reason. Yeah, it says enters battlefield, choose a creature type. Oh, yeah, tribal decks out there. There's a lot. Yeah. Creature spells chosen type cost 1 to cast. Cost reduction is a very powerful thing that we talked about earlier. Beginning of your upkeep, look at top card of your library. It's a creature card of the chosen type. Reveal up in your hand. Yeah, for basically any creature tribal deck, this is a good card advantage card over time, essentially. And also a good cost reducing card. So it's going to save you a lot of mana throughout the game. Very efficient, very effective. Helps out in a lot of ways. Yeah, there's a reason why this card has been so expensive over the years. And again, with some more reprintings, finally dropping down at least a little bit. Moving on, Vanquishers Banner, yet another tribal card that sees a ton of play. Enters the battlefield, choose that creature type. Creature control the chosen type, get +1/+1. So a nice little anthem there. More importantly, though, whenever you cast a creature spell the chosen type, draw a card. Yeah, an absurd amount of value throughout the game with this. When this stays in play and you're casting creature spell to creature spell, especially in certain decks like, you know, Elf Tribal, Elf Ball, essentially. Yeah, just get a ton of elves that can tap for mana to play more elves. Yeah, with certain tribes that are low to the ground, especially ones like elves that can generate mana, you're going to be getting a lot of card advantage out of this. Moving on, we've got Curse of Opulence. Advantage in a different way with mana. $1.44 currently. I think this card used to be budget friendly, at least for like a tiny bit. Oh gosh, this card's great though. Enchant player, whenever enchant players attack, create a gold token. Each opponent attacking the player does the same. Gold is like a better treasure technically because you don't have to tap it. You just sacrifice it for the mana. Regardless, hey, put it on a player and everyone's gonna be like, let's attack that player because we want gold. And when they do that, then you also get gold. So it's a great low to the ground way that can generate you a ton of value throughout the game. Finally, Impact Tremors. This little common card that could. My goodness. When this was a Dragon Stark here, this was an incredibly budget-friendly card for a while. And then all of a sudden, skyrocketing. Just absolutely skyrocketing. I mean, this is a common and it was like 5, 6, 7, whatever it was dollars. I mean, the secret lair drop apparently is 14. Regardless, $2 now. Still a common that is $2. Please keep reprinting it, Wizards. Champion for 1 in red. Whenever a creature is battlefield under control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. A fantastic card. A fantastic effect. Again, if you've got a token deck or like a goblin deck where you get a ton of goblins out like a Krenko deck, my goodness, the amount of pain that you can inflict with this is just absurd. Low to the ground enchantment. Again, enchantments are probably the hardest permanent type to deal with outside of actually now probably like battles, although they can attack a battle, I guess. So still probably enchantments. But yeah, enchantments are hard to deal with. This can do a lot of work for you. Just a really good card. Keep reprinting it, Wizards. Maybe reprint in an actual set so we can actually, you know, get at that common level and then really take advantage of that versus like in a pre-con where it like doesn't really matter what its rarity is. Regardless, a great card. And now, yes, just $2. But yeah, if you are interested in these cards, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. Maybe I did. There is a card list link in the description below, so make sure you check that out and consider picking up some of these cards because, yeah, these price drops, well, they are fantastic, but they might not last for long. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Comment below with your thoughts on these cards. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.